What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the same. And right now, I'm feeling like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Weisz.
Dr. Jeremy Weisz here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. And today is no different. I have Chris Madden of Matchnode and C-Bums. And Chris, I'm going to formally introduce you in a second, but I always like to give other episodes people should check out of the podcast. So Andy Crestadino, which is a mutual friend, Orbit Media Studios. You know, we've known each other, Chris, but Andy was like, have you had Chris? And I'm like, actually, I haven't. And so he actually reintroduced us, whatever you want to say. You can check out that, there was an episode with Jason Swank as well. He has 2 episodes, one where he talks about how he's buying up agencies and how he values agencies and what they're doing to buy up agencies. It's really a great topic, and check that out and many more on InspiredInsider.com. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. At Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to their Dream 100 relationships. And how do we do that? We help you run your podcast. You know, Chris, for me, the number one thing in my life is relationships. And I'm always looking at ways to give to my best relationships. I found no better way to do that than to profile the people and the companies I most admire over the past decade on my podcast. So if you have thought about podcasting, you should. If you have questions, go to rise25.com. You can email us anything. You know, John and I have both been doing it for over a decade. Support at rise25.com and learn more. Chris Madden co-founded Matchnode, which is a digital ad agency that includes the Chicago Bulls, LendingTree, New Balance, and many, many more as clients. You can check them out at matchnode.com. Also, Chris started C-Bums, which is an NFT project focused on massively improving ocean health, which has donated over $140,000 to ocean charities within a 6-month time frame at cbums.io. Chris, I feel like I've seen C-Bums NFTs everywhere. So maybe you're just following me everywhere because you're so good at ads. But anyways, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeremy, for having me. I'm very excited to chat with you. And yes, there's a reason why you've been seeing C-Bums. Just in your introduction, I own an advertising agency and an NFT project. You put those things together. I'm glad you've seen them.
So tell me a little bit more about what Matchnode does, and then we'll get to C-Bums.
Will do. So Matchnode is a digital advertising agency. I like to say here in Chicago, although we gave up our Chicago address and HQ in the pandemic. So now we're a remote agency of 9 employees. Like you said, we work with B2C brands like the Chicago Bulls, a couple other sports teams, LendingTree. We have some other financial services clients. We work with restaurants, all B2C. It's work that's very strategic. We are paid social first. So we started as an agency around essentially Facebook ads and grew that over time. We also do a lot of Google ads. We do a lot of other paid social platforms like Pinterest and TikTok, things like that. And yeah, we really enjoy it. We're very data driven, very high touch. So we're a small agency that ends up looking like an extension of our clients' teams, and really enjoy the work that we do. And it's a lot of fun.
So C-Bums.
C-Bums is an NFT project, like you said, with a mission of massively impacting ocean health. So started C-Bums. We dropped the collection in December with a co-creator, Nate Azark. Nate is the artist behind C-Bums. And I've been in crypto as an investor and close watcher of the space for like 6 years. And I've been wanting really badly to dive deeper into crypto professionally. And as maybe we'll touch on in this conversation, the things that are happening with Matchnode as a digital ad agency with certain clients that we have, the platforms that we work on, it was becoming clearer and clearer to us the way in which these digital experiences and services are moving. And so an NFT project where we got to learn a lot more about how all this is happening. I like to learn by doing. So we are pretty deep in the learning process, really enjoying it. It is a wild ride. NFT space is very, very exciting, but also challenging for lots of reasons. So it's been great. And it has been a straight uphill curve as far as the learning curve goes.
Chris, for many people, when people hear crypto or NFT, it almost feels like a black box. They're not sure what it is. I want you to talk a little bit about, one of the reasons you did a heavy shift into this, which has to do with, I know, with the platforms and the things that were going on with Matchnode. And then we'll talk about what is it? Like, why, how did you dive into it and what you're doing? So what caused you to kind of look deeper into the NFT space?
Well, we really enjoy working on Facebook as an ad platform and now Meta, but Facebook changed its name to Meta for a reason, seeing a lot of the changes that we were already tracking. We bought Bitcoin as an agency in 2016, and we were only a couple of years in because we saw a future in which digital interactions and digital networks are going to be owned by creators and owned by people rather than owned by centralized systems. And so I think we're now at a point where Meta, Instagram, all the different parts of Meta and all these centralized platforms understand that. They themselves are admitting it, and they're coming later than a lot. So that was like a strategic digital landscape reason that has to do with my advertising agency and my view on those different large players in the industries. As far as what an NFT is and why we decided to do it, NFTs are the first chance to really own provably any digital object. Of course, in the past, you might have an image or some piece of sensitive information like a bank statement. Anybody can copy that, get their hands on it. You can copy things infinitely. What NFTs allow for is some digital verification of ownership. And so I can make an NFT. You can decide that you want to buy it from me. You can keep it forever. You can do all sorts of different things with it. NFTs, I think, too, in the broader landscape are a little bit pigeonholed for what they can be. They're like a really broad applicable to what's closer to like a website or a web page in the reality of the things that it can do. It can display images. It can carry metadata. But what really matters is that I think it's the piece of the crypto industry that has most brought normal people into it because it's relatable. You see this, you own this thing. Those things are easier to understand than maybe some previous crypto movements that were really truly financial in nature, like decentralized finance. You got to be pretty excited about lending and loans and bonds and things like that to really get this. Whereas this is a fun, accessible way to dive into crypto, to dive into NFTs. A very friendly community that's really helpful and really been eye-opening to me. And then I think going back 3 or 4 years ago when NFTs were frankly first invented, I started watching it with CryptoKitties, which first came out on the Ethereum network. And what a little bit of, I think, an easy criticism is like it can be shallow and short-term. And so I saw those years ago that adding a charitable component to an NFT project was really necessary. And just looking at a lot of e-commerce and D2C Web2 brands that have broken out, like that charitable piece of those businesses and adding meaning and purpose to that was a pretty obvious thing, in my opinion. And I think it's really helped us as far as attracting a values-based community. All the people in our community, some people are surfers and some people live near the ocean and some people are marine biologists, and it's like global. So we're really excited about what has happened so far. Yeah, that donation number we are super proud of. And we're just at the beginning. There's so much to do, and I could go on and on.
Yeah, I mean, if you're listening to the audio, you can check out the video as well on the post on Inspired Insider. And I'm pulling up the CBUM's website, and you can kind of see what it looks like visually. And you see all this, these cool images. When you decided to first get started with this, where did you start? Like, walk me through the journey a little bit of CBUMs.
Sure. So I had been kicking around similar ideas around cleaning up the world, like literally paying people to go out and clean up a place around them as a side project before the pandemic started. And like I said, I've been pretty deep into crypto and NFTs, just watching it and listening to podcasts and things like that. There seemed to always in my head, there was a missing piece of how to really get started. And the missing piece was a friend of mine, Nate, who is the co-creator and the artist. So you'll see if you keep scrolling down the website for those of our listeners who are also watching. So Nate and I started the project. It was literally one of those click moments where as soon as I thought of Nate, I was like, aha, that's it. I can't believe I didn't think of that sooner. So Nate and I are friends. We have a close mutual friend that introduced us, and Nate has a design agency. He introduced us to LendingTree. This was many years ago. LendingTree became our biggest client. So again, in the Matchnode world, this all felt it made a lot of sense. Nate has passed us business. We passed him business. We're like, let's do this. He also wanted, as an artist, wanted to dig into Web3 and learn more. And so when I had that moment of clarity, that little light bulb, I texted him and I said, do you want to do an NFT project with me? And 10 minutes later, he said yes. And it was October of last year. I remember that because it was the Bulls' first preseason game was the next night. And I said, do you want to go to the Bulls game and talk about it? So he said, yes, we did. We sat down and it was that quickly. Charity was always going to be a part of it. I think in my initial text, I threw out a couple of components and charity was a piece. First conversation, we agreed that the ocean should be the focus. So then Nate starts over the next week or two, starts sending me images of different fish sorts of characters that he's drawn. And fast forward a month and we've locked in on this base character that you're looking at. And the way these NFT projects work is that they're algorithmically generated. So there are 10,000 pieces in our collection. They're all completely unique. They're all different from one another. And basically you can see just right here, simply there's like a background that's different colors. There's different types of fish and there are different headgear, for example. Now I think there's something like 14 traits. I'm just naming 3, but for those 3 traits, Nate may have put in 20 or 25 or 50 different possibilities. And so we run a piece of software that algorithmically lines these things up and creates 10,000. There could have been maybe, I don't know, 1 million or 10 million based on all the different possible traits. And so we run through those 10,000 unique traits. There's a whole lot of technical learning that we had to do on how to actually do this. And so you can see the button there to mint a CBOM. If someone connects their wallet, clicks mint, pays the ETH to mint it, that CBOM is automatically passed into their wallet, the next CBOM in the line. And so we don't know what that next CBOM is, and neither do they. So there's this fun moment of where you're almost like opening the one that you got. So
it's like opening a digital pack of baseball cards.
Exactly. So, that's definitely what
except for it's a unique, it's guaranteed unique.
Yeah.
So it's like if each pack of cards had a card that was unique and only you would get it.
There were 10,000 total cards. Every one of the 10,000 is unique. You open up the pack and you're like, oh, this is the one that I got. Yes.
Got it. And so they get it. And then what?
And then they're part of a community. And, there's an and then what that is a huge question in the NFT space, and different projects answer that question differently. Brass tacks, when you get down to it, the then what is you own this piece of art. You can do anything with it. So we do pass the commercial ownership rights of the piece of art to them. So people can do anything they want. They can change it. They can, and people have done a lot of different cool mods. We've got some cool artists in our community that will put their favorite sports team as the background, or make one for Valentine's Day, or make one for Earth Day, or people can use it to make their own merchandise and sell that merchandise. People can start a business. They can do anything they want to with it. They own it. So that's the first thing, is that it's really like what you're getting is this piece of art, your ability to own it, your ability to transfer it to others, whatever you want to do. You also know that 20% of the money that you paid went to a charity. And then there are a lot more things that we're working on. As you scroll down, there is a Metaverse component of it. There's another project that we bought into that basically allows us to build a Metaverse with play to earn capabilities on top of Minecraft. So we hired an agency that's helping us build that. We built a Minecraft world that you can go in and see right now. That's all CBOMs based. And as the next piece of development finishes, we're going to be able to have like CBOMs games. So if you own a CBOM, you go into our Minecraft world, you play this game, you'll get rewards like money. It's called the World's Token that this NFT project is launching. And so that token, then we give part of that to charity. And so these games are about cleaning up the ocean and things that fish would do to clean up trash. That's a virtual world. We have a very important real world piece of this, which is about cleaning up the ocean. So aside from the charitable piece that where we're donating money at the mint, there's also, we're doing, especially with the weather getting nicer, we're recording this in May. I live in Chicago. And
it's not quite nice yet, but yeah.
doing a lot of beach cleanups. So anybody who does a beach cleanup in past months, we've been changing the incentives, but we're giving people incentives to get outside and clean things up. So in the past, if you went outside and you cleaned up for an hour or two, and there's parameters and kind of details on what we're looking for. But basically, if you do before and after pictures, you do that 3 times, we send people C-bumps. There's a specific kind of NFT that we're now giving out. And every time you do a cleanup in a month, you get entered into a raffle to now win a C-bump. So we've been adjusting what that looks like, but it's all these virtual and real world community building possibilities that are unlocked that all, again, lead back to this mission of improving ocean health.
So people could win one of these NFC bump MFTs for participating in the cleanup as well.
Yes, absolutely.
That's cool. I love that.
Thanks.
You mentioned the metaverse. So there's a lot of things. People may buy it because they want something cool. They want to change it. Maybe they want to make merch out of it, but they could also use it it's also being used in the metaverse. And so just explain a little bit of the metaverse. When I, and I don't know if I'm thinking of it properly, but I'm thinking of it like a virtual reality. I have an Oculus Quest 2, I put it on and I'm in a virtual reality game. And you can interact with different games. So I don't know if I'm thinking of it properly. What is the metaverse and how does that relate to the NFT?
Good question. Like this discussion around what's the definition of a metaverse is a useful one just because it opens up the discussion of, I don't think there's a perfect definition, but there's like extremes, So I think of a metaverse as a persistent digital experience. And so that could be lots of different things. I've heard people argue that we already live in the metaverse in lots of ways, where like our banking environment is essentially a metaverse where a lot of people don't even go into a branch. We've got images on our phone and in our screens that are our experience of having wealth and having money, with this relationship with this bank. That's pretty light, Then you mentioned Oculus Quest VR. I would definitely say that games and virtual reality are the closest thing that we have so far. And it's the like jumping off point from which people can go a little bit deeper and imagine like, well, what if everything was a game? What if you're always in this world? And I don't see it quite like those are like two extremes. And the reality is there's just like all this gray in the middle as the hardware and the software and the experiences all are working to get built. We're like the very earliest point of what that can be. But I do like the way Mark Zuckerberg discusses it, in which he says, there's this real world, clearly, that has nothing to do with computers, it's humans interacting in real time. There's this fully virtual world, which might be a video game or Oculus Quest, like you mentioned. But the real world is a blend of these two things. And the metaverse is another angle on that. And so the way that NFTs have to do with the metaverse is because if you can imagine yourself having a virtual experience that is important to you, which I think is part of the metaverse really taking place in this cultural mentality right now, is that people can start to imagine and understand that there's this virtual world where there's things that are really valuable to me. And NFTs are the obvious first step there, where like there are NFTs that are worth hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. And why? I think for people who aren't as deep into the space as maybe someone like I am, you can wonder how that could ever make sense. And it makes sense to me because I already understand that the virtual world is important to people. And, I think we all can look at our lives and see examples of that. So as the virtual world becomes more important or important, there's things that have value and now we can trade them. And there's symbols of identity for sure. An NFT, literally a profile picture, is part of the original intent. And Twitter and Instagram are changing their profile picture capabilities to signal that you truly own that NFT. Like those things are about identity and status. So there's a lot in that, and how identity and status translates online and into these virtual experiences, and how that is different or tied to or not your real world identity. I think people are running experiments on that to understand what different communities of people want to do and what are the limits and where's the innovation.
So many questions, Chris, based on that. But, what I want to ask, so but someone can use it, like we mentioned, for merch, for their own use, for whatever they want. Profile, they can change it, but you can say they can also use it in different games, like if they're playing different games online or virtually. In whatever game, like you mentioned Minecraft, they can use it in those games, and you say like you reward those people for using it. I guess I imagine that's the case because then they're spreading the word on C-bombs, and other people say, oh, where'd you get that? And then is that why you have that reward in there? It's like, oh, they go back to cbombs.io and like, oh, I want to get one of those.
Well, that would be one way to do it, and that would be basically CBUM saying, we're going to pay these people for being in this virtual world because we think that money's going to come back to us somehow. I could see people trying that. That is not what we're doing. There is another project called NFT Worlds, which has built all these blockchain NFT Web3 capabilities on top of Minecraft. And basically, we bought an NFT that represents a piece of land that has these capabilities in Minecraft. And then we hired a firm to build out a world where there's an old town that looks like seaside and there's water everywhere because we're C-bombs, and there's building a game to pull trash out of the ocean. The point is that the funds for that come from this token that NFT Worlds, the larger project, the like overlay project, built. And so I and the people who own C-bombs can make Worlds, this token that we are not generating. It's a third party generating that token. So I think that's a really key question, and key difference is like, who's generating that economic value that's being passed on? And in this case, it's not us just creating value and giving it to our holders. It's coming from this third party that we're participating in that has built this layer on top of Minecraft.
This is fascinating, Chris. When we're looking at the page and people are watching the video, are these C-bombs and NFTs people have already purchased?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all of these are real and owned by someone, and a couple of them I know very well, and they have stories and things like that. So you can see the one kind of in the bottom row that is a rainbow fish. So there's a rainbow fish with a rainbow background and a unicorn head. Yeah, that one right there. So I own that one. Someone else made it. I liked it so much I just like had to buy it because the traits of the rainbow background and the rainbow fish is extremely rare. Like when I bought that one, it was the only one in the whole collection that had the double rainbow, we call it. And I think there's since been like 2 other double rainbows minted. So the one right next to it that has like the wooden on the other side, that it's like looks like a wooden carving with like a yellow background. That is a 1 of 1, meaning that one was not generated with the algorithm we described. We took 4 very specific C-bombs that the artist drew and put them into the collection that looked nothing like any of the other ones. So those would be among the most sought after. So yeah, those C-bombs you're looking at are all real ones that people have purchased that are out in the world. And again, as I look at them, I can name a handful of like, I know who owns that one, I know who owns that one. And they do have stories, which is cool. In fact, that one of one I was telling you about, somebody minted it. It was a long time ago. Somebody minted it. People who knew and were watching very closely were like, oh my gosh, that's a 1 of 1. That's incredible. It looks amazing. And wow, how exciting. A person went and put an offer to buy it right away from the person who bought it, and they accepted it. They sold it. So they sold it for a very low amount, like the equivalent of was 0.06 ETH, and the mint price was 0.04. So on the order of like $180 at the time. And people were like amazed. So it was this huge, huge score. I felt badly for the person who sold it, but we never found out who they are. And so hopefully they don't know. But yeah, that's another interesting piece is the community and who buys them and who sells them and why. And yeah, there's stories behind so many of these already that I already, again, just looking at them, I know.
Also, how do they confirm the owner? How does it work as far as just verifying the digital token of that NFT?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question that until I got as deep into this as I did, it's hard to discuss and hard to understand theoretically. And then as soon as you take that step of deciding to get into it yourself with, maybe $100 and an hour of time, you start to realize like, oh, I get it. Because basically you don't sign into our website here. You connect your wallet to Mint, and that wallet is something that's on your machine already because you own it. You might have drjeremyweisz.eth that you bought. It's like owning your .com, and that's in your wallet. And then you might say, I want to buy one. I've never bought an NFT before. I want to try it. And then so you buy one of these NFTs, you mint it. It shows up in your wallet.
So if I'm like Chris, I want the rainbow on rainbow, right? Yeah. And I'm going to send you this. And then there is like basically a digital stamp in your wallet that with that purchase, essentially.
Yeah. There's definitely transaction information. And so because I own that double rainbow, you would have to buy it from me. And so I would have to agree with you on what the price is. And then we could do this on a platform generally, because generally it's like we don't know each other. And that's the point of crypto. We can transact without knowing one another and trust it. And so I could put this up for sale on OpenSea, or you could put a direct offer on it on OpenSea. In either case, we say, yes, that's the price. I click yes. It immediately leaves my wallet and goes into your wallet. And like, we can all see that. It's like, it was in my wallet 1 minute, I refresh, it's gone. Opposite for you. It's called an ether scan, which is like the receipt. So if you and I were, because we know each other, if we're doing a direct transaction, I generally don't recommend this, but we know each other. I would trust you. You would trust me. We could not use OpenSea, and you could just send me the ETH, and then I can just send you the NFT. And in both cases, we could send each other the Etherscan link, which is a receipt. And it would say, from Chris's wallet to Jeremy's wallet, this thing was sent. This is the time that it was sent. This is how much gas we paid, et cetera. So yeah, that's what's really cool about it, is it is all completely tracked. And there's this idea about crypto that it's maybe sketchy or shady, or it's good for criminals. It's like really bad for criminals generally, because everything you do is tracked and publicly visible, at least on Ethereum.
How did you decide on the pricing? As you could see, I don't know if you've changed it. As it gets popular, do you change this pricing? Right now, you could see it says mint to CBUM for 0.04 Ethereum. Yeah.
So really good question. And so the way we set it up is that we cannot change the price. So 0.04 ETH is the price. And we set that price basically by looking at the market. This was in December, looking at the market of other projects. We always saw this project with the charitable element, with like friendly art. We always saw this as a project for people to come in to NFTs from the outside, potentially for the first time. So we want to make the price lower than most. Like certainly you'll see projects selling for 0.1 or much more for a lot of different reasons.
What is equivalent today about what is 0.04 Ethereum?
That's what's tough. That's what's tough. When we started the project, the price of the value of one ETH was $4,500. So 0.04 was $180. Now Ethereum's chugging along at $2,000. There's been a lot of tumult in the market. ETH is at $2,000. That's $80. So it adds a layer of complexity to our business for sure. We're spending money on ads. We're doing other things marketing wise. We're paying different people. Generally, a lot of people want to be paid in ETH, and we're preferring that. But there's reason, of course, for us to spend US dollars in the business. And that has been a challenge to be like, we just got a bunch of ETH, and like, when do we sell it in order to turn it into cash in order to pay our bills? It's like as if we need more complexity in entrepreneurship. But this is
right. Talk about the physical component. I'm looking through here. I don't know if there is a physical one. I see this cool gold CBUM here, and this relates. I saw from the Chicago Bulls, right? I remember seeing, I don't know if Michael Jordan came out with something there was like a bull that had like 6 rings on its horns. What are the Chicago Bulls doing, or anyone else in this space with NFTs?
Yeah, I'm excited to answer that question. If you scroll up to the top and go to the links, click on beach cleanups, and I'll describe some of our in real life stuff as I answer the Bulls question. And thank you. Yeah, thanks for asking. The Bulls are one of the clients of our agency. So Matchnode, my digital advertising agency, works with the Bulls to help them sell tickets, which is super fun. And we really enjoy working with them. And the first NFT I ever owned was summer of 2021, and the Bulls put out their first NFT project. So I was all in on this. client and now friend who works at the Bulls, Dan Moriarty, was putting this all together. And it was like a different part of my brain where I was like obsessed with NFTs and crypto. And then the Matchnode digital advertising part of my brain, I wouldn't say they're totally separate, but I didn't put them together too much. So see Dan, my client, work on NFTs on behalf of the Bulls. This was their first drop they did last year. And now subsequently, very recently, that they're doing another one. It was just continued to show me that this was something that like professionally I needed to move towards and wanted to move towards. So with the Bulls, if you have all 6, which no one really does, and you get the super special ones, you can be like, you get like a contract for a day and you get to sit on the bench. And so like they invite you into, the experience of the team. And I don't know that anybody actually has all 6 of those in that way, but there are different perks for if you have 1 or 2, depending on which ones you have, you might get tickets to a game. Here, aside from the Metaverse piece I was describing before, we've really focused on getting people out and helping to clean up beaches and waterways. So of course, not everybody lives near a beach or can get to one, but most people live near some body of water that ultimately empties to some other body of water that ultimately empties to the ocean. So anyone that wants to go out and do a cleanup, it's usually about a 2-hour cleanup. There you go. I have those. I think I have 5 of those.
What do you have?
I have 5 of the 6. What I don't have is if you scroll down, I didn't get the Seattle one. So I didn't get that one right there. I have 4 of the 6. I didn't get the Seattle one. I didn't get the first one.
So if you get all of them, you get some kind of cool special experience.
Yep. And see, there you go right there. Like Bull for a Day would be the legendary, if you scroll down, those challenges, rewards. So yeah.
That's cool.
So basically we as project owners get to decide. You mentioned the C-Bums NFT that was gold encircling. That is not something that you could get directly from our website. We dropped that to people, meaning we like automatically gave it to every wallet that had 3 C-Bums in it. And we announced ahead of time that we were going to do that. So
this is a physical thing right here.
No, that's not a physical thing.
It's not. Oh, they get the digital version of that.
They get that digital version of
Got
that.
it.
Now we kicked around like, should we get some ocean plastic that's been recycled and pulled out of the ocean and use it to build a 3D model where we could give this as a prize to 20 people? All sorts of ideas like that. There is in real life merch. We are making beach cleanup flags. I believe there's now a beach cleanup flag in Mexico, a beach cleanup flag in Costa Rica, Southern California. We just did a cleanup in Chicago with my co-founder and other people in the community a couple of weeks ago. So there's
shout
merch.
out to TerraCycle. I had Tom Zaki of TerraCycle on the podcast, and that would be cool to partner with TerraCycle to produce. They I don't know if you're familiar with TerraCycle, but
I'm not.
Oh yeah, like if you see some packages like chip bags have been made out of recycled materials, but they create basically as a company these products out of all the stuff that they cleaned up. Like you have here, this cigarette butts, like they have, I forgot, collected X number of millions of cigarette butts through their cleanup. So, but they actually have stuff in Walmart and Target from the recycled material, like not just recycled, but the cleanup stuff they've done. So
would love to connect with them. It sounds like the perfect sort of partner that we're looking for. So you're on it. So those in real life pieces are in development, still to come, important. And there's a whole lot to do on all sides. So, but that sounds like a great possibility.
So, this is fascinating. Chris, talk about the Chicago Bulls for a second, of what you do with them.
Yeah. So on the advertising agency side, we started very small. My co-founder, Brian, and I just working with, whatever clients we could get and building the business that way. We had no outside funding, and we really started it with our own blood, sweat, and tears, working with early clients and slowly building it up. So we've been in business for coming up on 9 years now. And it was maybe 4 years ago that the Bulls filled out a form on our website. And Jeremy, you mentioned that you and I had met before Andy connected us, and we met through Entrepreneurs Organization. And I was in an Entrepreneurs Organization meeting and got this email, and I was sitting next to my business partner, and I remember saying like, okay, we just got a lead off our website. Of any company in the world, who do you think I'd be most excited to work with? And I think the Bulls were his second guess. So they filled out a form on the site, but we had done the work to be prepped to win the business. We were working with the Chicago Cubs ownership and helping them launch Gallagher Way, which was their entertainment district. And I think that helped. But what we do with them is we help them sell tickets. So we have a certain budget that they want us to spend each season. They have a certain return, let's say $4 in the door for every dollar spent, or $3 or $5 or some numbers like that based on their season and what they're expecting. And then it's our job to go and get that return. And so it is creative. So their team, they have an in-house team that, of course, like every game is creating digital content. And we meet with them early in the season to decide how are we going to translate that digital content into great paid social ads that drive returns. And so there's a big creative piece to it. There's a technical piece to it, because understanding that return when the tickets are sold through a third party, which is Ticketmaster, there's a lot of moving parts between the ad platforms changing details, Ticketmaster changing details, and we're continually going and looking and finding wins to track better, to convert better. And so we just really love working with them. They're great people. They have referred other business to us. We now work with the United Center, their arena, as a client. We work with the Blackhawks as a client that they helped us get. And so now we have 3 or 4 different sports teams as clients. And always it's like, here's our budget. Here's our particular setup. We're trying to sell tickets. And so the Bulls are a big global brand. They were thankfully better this year, but they've been not great in past seasons. So we take those things into account. We work with some NHL teams. A couple of them didn't have great results on the ice this season. They're not 500. They didn't make the playoffs. So that can be very different. And we're marketing, family night at the arena or different promotions they might be doing. There's like pro sports have like lots of different theme nights. And so those things become some of the things that we promote to try to bring people out, if it's not just about having the best team in the league that season.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, when we talk about these big brands like the Chicago Bulls and New Balance, these are established companies that have over time transitioned to digital. So I want to hear about traditional marketing versus and how that transition to digital works. And I also want to give a shout out to Paul Ratner of the Golden State Warriors. I'm going to have to send this episode to him, Chris, because I want to know what the Golden State Warriors are doing with the NFT space and other stuff like that. So I'll have to get their take on it. But transitioning from traditional or having a mix of traditional and digital.
Yeah, good question. I know Steph Curry owns at least one NFT because I'm in the same project that he is in, but as is Dan Moriarty. So I definitely got some tips on NBA players buying into projects, and it's a basketball game. But so yeah, you said it, and we are not the agency. We have some e-commerce business, of course, but we're not the agency that's working with digital native brands to sell mattresses. We are established brands like the Bulls and like New Balance that are shifting to digital, that know that the world has changed quite a lot since their businesses started. Even LendingTree, I think of as a digital native brand, but LendingTree started as like a lot of people with a lot of phones, call centers in North Carolina, and then they went out and opened an office in the Bay Area to build out the tech wing. So with established brands, it's essentially like one of the things that we think about is that they have a pie chart in their slide deck somewhere with their ad budget. And 10 years ago, it was more slanted towards traditional, and now it's more slanted towards digital. And we're the people that help them make that transition. So it means that there may be people that are really important to the organization internally that don't understand it or aren't as comfortable. And like, what does that mean for the work that we do and how we might have to win people over? Again, very different from if this is a digitally native founder and they want all the cutting edge tactics, metrics, discussion. It's just the language we use, the way that we approach the problems, the way that we sell to them, the way that we understand where their team might be coming from changes. So as I mentioned, we also work with the United Center. The United Center's been selling luxury suites for 20 years. And this year was the first time they ever tried to sell them digitally without a phone call in there. And so one of the people on the team was the person who's been leading this for 15 or 20 years. And he's great and was very excited and open to learning. but admitted that this was very new to them and that they had not tried this before. And so it just takes more of a position where we have to help people. The good thing is that because the numbers are so clear, they're surprised at how clear they are compared to traditional. So they might be comfortable with a billboard or a TV ad because that's what they've been doing. But when we come to them and run a 90-day test or something, we can say, okay, this is how much money was spent. This is how much money came in. These are all the different tests that we ran. Here's what that creative looks like and what happened. We learned that we need to change this word. So then when we change that word, here's what the outcome was. This is very convincing to people. Like, unless you have some sort of preconceived bias where you're just not going to go along with it, numbers speak to lots of different kinds of people. And so that's kind of some of the approaches that we take to bring maybe people who are used to more traditional approaches into the digital approach, make it feel like something that they can have success with and that they can understand clearly why it's a win.
Chris, are there any tips you can give as far as, we are used to, from the premium sales standpoint, rubbing elbows and doing more of the traditional stuff. What has worked on the digital side for that? Because actually, I mentioned Paul Ratner, and that's one of the things I believe, I don't know if he still is in charge of, but he was, of their premium suite VIPs. Right. Yeah. So what are some things they could look at doing? Or you mentioned some verbiage. What stuff are you doing that's working?
Yeah, well, every situation is different first. So like I mentioned, the success that the team's having in the sport that they play is a huge impact. I remember I saw someone who did some of this work for the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors are really good again now, but the Warriors were on top of the world. And he's talking about how he's selling tickets for the Warriors via ads. And everyone was like, that's so easy. They sell out every game. So what that team might need is really different from a team that's struggling to fill the arena and a small market might be needing. But on the luxury suite example, the Bulls or the United Center hired us, as I mentioned, to run the same ads for them to sell luxury suites. The United Center is the most luxury suites in the NBA, potentially in the country. And so there's a lot of inventory there that's not sold. Generally, that's sold over the phone. It's a high dollar amount, a lot of corporate purchasers. So what we did, and what we did in deep collaboration with the United Center team, is they built out a page that works to sell this thing digitally. And so questions are, for instance, how many people can come and what's the total cost? So instead of saying this is going to cost $2,000 or something, it's the suite with 10 people, $200 per head, all inclusive. You get food, you get parking, you get a ticket, you get a hat. All of a sudden that seems really different than this is $2,000. What am I No, versus you and 10 of your friends at $200 a head for a big night out. Of course, not inexpensive, but it's just a very different positioning. So as we started to go down that path, as always in digital and in advertising, the first thing that we start with and put in the market ends up not looking at all like the thing that we'll have in the market 6 weeks later, because we learned so quickly. So one of the big takeaways that they were excited about and we were excited about is that the title of this product is Executive Suites. We've been calling them Executive Suites forever. We and they, I don't even know who came up with the idea initially on their team or ours, but I think it was on their team, we ran a test calling them all-inclusive suites. So everything's the same, but on the one hand, it's an executive suite, on the other hand, it's all-inclusive. It seems intuitive now, but all-inclusive just did so much better. And it just gave us a big signpost of this is the direction we're headed in, and this is the messaging that people want digitally. An all-inclusive experience is something that people makes sense to people, and they're used to shopping for. All-inclusive necessarily includes me. Well, I'm part of what's included in this, and it's for me. Whereas executive or exclusive, but executive in particular, a lot of people are like, that's not me. So that was a big breakthrough. That's just one example. And there's so many other things. The different teams use different back-end platforms, whether Ticketmaster, another thing called Fivo, that they use to run the back end and running tests against those things and how our work is being tracked. There's a lot of technical pieces in the background too. So that's one creative example where all-inclusive really beat executive. And then there's a bunch of technical examples that are little breakthroughs in the background that can really make a difference in the return.
Chris, last question, because I know we're at time now, but I want to encourage people to check out Matchnode.com. If you've been watching the video here, you'll see I've been pulling up some of the images here. You go there, you can go to cbums.io to check out what they're doing with the NFT project. Last question, Chris, is just a few resources that you recommend people in NFT or crypto. I'm sure you've done some learning throughout the journey. If there's anyone or any other NFT projects people should check out from like the basketball NBA or whatever it is, what are some resources you recommend in this space?
Thank you. One podcast I really like, it's Ethereum based, and so they touch on a lot of NFTs, but they're talking more broadly in the space, is called Bankless, the Bankless Podcast. The Bankless Podcast has a spinoff called Overpriced JPEGs. And Overpriced JPEGs is the NFT focus. And so that's a podcast I've really taken to and I really enjoy listening to because they have some really intelligent takes. The basketball project is called RumbleKongs, called the RumbleKong League. And so Steph Curry, has some of the merch and wears it, and it's turning into a game.
It's Kong, like Kong?
Yeah, like Donkey Kong kind of. So we all own different NFTs that are ultimately going to become players in this video game that is a basketball game. But I'd also point people to, like, if you're looking for more philosophical, deeper first principles thinking around crypto and like why does all this matter? Tim Ferriss has a couple podcasts that I really appreciate about crypto that are some of my favorites, with a guest named Naval Ravikant, Naval. So Naval and Tim Ferriss podcast about crypto. One with Nick Szabo, which is like really deep on the purpose of money and the idea of money historically, and why these changes are happening now and why they matter and why they can reorient the world for good, which is really why I'm in crypto, is because I really believe these systems have huge possibility to help our societies be better structured with better incentives. And then the other Tim Ferriss podcast would be, again, with Naval and Vitalik Buterin. Vitalik is the founder or one of the creators of Ethereum. And I really admire him. I admire the way he thinks and writes. So Tim Ferriss with Naval Ravikant and Vitalik Buterin is amazing. So there's a bunch of podcasts right there. Hopefully that wasn't too.
No, that's great. And I watched one with the Pomp on the Pomp podcast with Jim Cramer, which I thought was great also.
Yeah, I like the Pomp pod for sure. I've listened to many of those. I appreciate Pomp and his energy and his talents for sure. He's a great, I think, evangelizer for the space. He's so hardcore Bitcoin. I love Bitcoin. Bitcoin's what started it all. I'm happy that Bitcoin exists. It was necessary. I own some of it. I believe in it long term. I'm skeptical of people who are overly certain about, which one's going to be the winner of this or that. Now, that said, I have my own biases and beliefs, but I wish Pomp was a little more open to things beyond Bitcoin.
Chris, I want to first want to thank you. This was fantastic. Everyone check out more episodes. And Chris, thanks again.
Thank you so much. Truly appreciate it, Jeremy. Thanks for having me.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like $100 grand.